you're not just going to hang your shingle and people are going to start coming to you right away. It takes time to determine what is your niche. I kind of moved around a little bit in who I was going to help, trying to find the best ones for me. And then it takes time to market to that niche and really, and build your experience to become a coach. So I think it's a great career because you do get to help people, and hopefully all of us coaches out there are helping the world be a better place, helping everyone be a little kinder to themselves. But it definitely is not something that if you're going to do it on your own business, it's like starting any business. It takes capital and time.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. As always, appreciate you jumping in and listening to all these new and relevant themes in the health coaching space. So today we have a great one for you. Her name is Jalene Szuba, and we just kind of kick it today. I mean, we really getting down to niche marketing, some of our limiting beliefs, things that, of course, always revolve around how we can actually get up and start our online businesses and businesses in general around the health coaching space. So really good to just connect with her. She's doing so well in a niche that I guess when you look at it, you wouldn't necessarily say, oh wow, that's going to be something where I'm going to be so profitable and have all these opportunities that she obviously has. And that's just like in the category of sleep. So she's a sleep coach, which is really interesting. And especially in America, we kind of undervalue. I said kind of, I mean, it's kind of a thing that we definitely undervalue, but she just shows how, listen, this is the way to get her passion and what she has found to be a very big roadblock to actually having any health successes, getting a good night's sleep. And she makes it into a profitable business, and she shares just how she does that. Really excited to have her and share it with you. As always, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. It goes a long way for me to continuously get great guests like Jalene, and also, of course, jump on my website, OmarCumberbatch.com, to take a peek at the podcast course. I'm going to make a couple of updates to it and have a couple of people who actually are gifting parts of the course, so that just to make it more of a deeper dive into the podcasting space and just provide you with more value. So take a peek at that. And if you know anybody who is interested in having a podcast that's going to coincide with their building of their health coaching practice, jump on there and take a peek. So let's jump into the show. Hey, Jalene, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I'm good, Omar. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
No, I'm doing fantastic. I'm really excited for you to jump on. We've had a great conversation on This Podcast Burns Fat. So I thought you were a perfect candidate for Health Coach Academy because you are a health coach, obviously, who is doing very well in the space. And just really curious about your journey. So I wanted to give the audience a chance to get to know you a little bit better. So I want to give you an opportunity to just introduce yourself a little bit to the audience, tell a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So Jalene Szuba, I am a board certified health and wellness coach with the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches. I have always loved helping people. I've always been an empath, and I've gotten a real sense of purpose when I help people. So my journey to become a health coach was a little different than most people. I'm 53 now, and I didn't become a health coach till I was 50. Before that, I was an corporate event producer in Chicago for 20 years. And so there's some things that overlap, some things that don't. But while I loved being a producer and helping people have great presentations, it didn't really fill my cup or satisfy me in making the world a better place. And so then I decided that coaching was a good way to do that, and tried to figure out, before I got into coaching, I had that thought that a lot of people do, is you have to be an expert at something to coach someone else in. And as I've gotten into the space, I realized that really the main job of a coach is to bring out the best within you, within your client. So you shouldn't know everything there is to know about your client. You should just have the tools and the skills to ask the questions and help them gain the insights.
Yeah, no, I know that you had a lot of transferable skills in your past career and whatnot. So that's really very interesting to hear just how you did stumble upon health coaching and really just transition. So, like, can you tell us a little bit about that transition? How difficult was it? What were some of the steps that you took to make it a little bit more seamless?
Yeah. Um, it's definitely been challenging. I don't want to, misrepresent to anyone that like, oh, you go to school and you become a health coach and it's great and it's easy. Um, I just had someone last week ask me like, oh, it's something I've been thinking about. And I'm like, and I was thinking about our talk today and my recommendation is to don't quit your day job right away. Um, if you know that you like to help people, if you have a passion for something in particular, whether it's health and wellness like me or leadership, then it's definitely something to consider. If you're in a current job, I would say do it on the side. So for me, I was working on a boat, on a charter boat at the time for a family, and I had time to go to school on the side, but I also had an income because that took cost, that took time. And I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition out of New York, and I did their 6-month accelerated because I wanted to get into it as fast as I could, and I had the time to be able to take the courses. I just dove into it, and then COVID hit, so then I really had a lot of time. And I got fortunate because as I was practicing my coaching, everybody was getting more familiar with this platform of Zoom, and that's where I ended up doing a lot of my coaching. Um, and then when I decided to become board certified, that's another whole process to be qualified to sit for the board. You have to have a certain number of hours. You have to have a practicum. Someone else has, you have to have a practicum that's been approved by the NBHWC to sit. So they want to ensure that someone has watched or listened to your coaching and witnessed you coaching and know that, and ensures that motivational interviewing, what's cognitive behavioral therapy, some of those skill sets. And then I got fortunate. I met somebody that was working at Noom, the weight loss app. And so I applied right when they were looking for coaches. And that was really great experience because I was coaching every day. I was a group coach there, but it's still coaching. You're still trying to ask those insightful questions to get people to really think, what is the answer within? And be reflective and observe their own failures or observe their own challenges and move forward. So Noom had venture capital money come in and they did some restructuring and they gave those that wanted to leave an exit. So I took that exit and said, I'm going to jump into my business full time. In hindsight, that probably, it led me into some debt. So if you're comfortable going into debt, that's one avenue to take. For me, I hadn't done a lot of work on my money mindset. And so I was kind of sitting in a place of scarcity, and that debt was making things even more compounded and magnified. So that's why I hesitate to tell people, just be really aware that you're not just going to hang your shingle and people are going to start coming to you right away. It takes time to determine what is your niche. I kind of moved around a little bit and who I was going to help, trying to find the best ones for me. And then it takes time to market to that niche and really, and build your experience to become a coach. So I think it's a great career because you do get to help people, and hopefully all of us coaches out there are helping the world be a better place, helping everyone be a little kinder to themselves. But it definitely is not something that if you're going to do it on your own business, it's like starting any business. It takes capital and time.
Mm-hmm. So did you have any experience as a entrepreneur prior, or is this kind of a new experience for you as well?
Great question. I had a little bit when I was doing corporate events. I was a contractor. So
Okay.
I did have my own LLC for that business. And so I kind of knew what it was like you got to save your own tax money. You got to you got to pay your own health insurance. So I did know a lot of those things, which is all learnings for somebody if they're not an entrepreneur, if they've worked for a company. I would definitely recommend it. If you're getting into it and you don't know anything about business, a business development course is a great way to go because they can help you kind of make sure you manage those things.
Gotcha. So you did mention your money mindset issues. I
Mm-hmm.
know We all have some. There are a couple of us that are lucky who don't have any, but I've never read. Well, no, I can't say I've never met anybody like that, but it's been too few and far between. So I
Yeah,
want you to dive into that a little bit because that's actually one of my favorite topics to touch on this particular show. Just to kind of make people understand that it's not just you. You're not in this
right.
island on your own. So tell us a little bit about what you have in your insight into your own shortcomings as far as your money mindset.
Yeah. So I think it was Jen Sincero, You Are a Badass, was the first one who really opened my eyes to a money mindset. What is your relationship to money? And thinking about what is your first memory about money. And for me, it was when I was a kid and we would get money from like grandparents or relatives at the holidays. You know, you get like a $20 bill in the envelope or five or 10 or whatever. My parents would say, if you put that in the bank, we'll match it. So that gave me kind of this idea of saving is good, and to not just go blow my money and to think about the future. On and then my parents got divorced. And so one of the things, and I'd love to hear your thought on this too. One of the things I've read is that children who come from a home that was, for lack of a better word, broken, or
Mhm.
where something happened to them. I deal with abandonment issues because of that divorce. We tend to have a scarcity mindset because we feel the world is a place that can't be trusted. We're uncertain about things. We have been left, quote unquote, in a
Mhm.
situation. Whereas children who grow up in a household where they're supported and loved and encouraged tend to have more of an abundance mindset. And if you just think of it on those levels, it makes sense, right? Like you're growing up in two completely different environments. So it wasn't until I was in my like 40s that I could reflect on all this and go, oh, okay, that's why. But it's interesting because when I was in my 20s, I had my astrology chart read, and they were like, oh, you know, money's never going to be a problem as long as you always remember it's an energy force. And then
Mhm.
the more you try to hold on to it, you strangle its flow.
Mhm.
But for some reason that lesson didn't always stick with me, and so I went through this period where, yeah, I was living paycheck to paycheck, and you know, the bills come. I like to do what I call my money Mondays, and that's when I pay all my bills because I was feeling overwhelmed. Because you get a bill, like back in the day when we would get mail, you get a bill like every day, and it was like, I don't want to sit down and write a check back in the day every day. And so I said, okay, I'll always put my bills in this folder, and on Monday I tackle all those bills, because most bills you have at least 7 days to pay them. Usually you have 30 days. And so that became a way of saying, okay, this doesn't have to stress me out every day. There's one day a week. I dedicate an hour to that. I still do it. I do it usually Monday morning. I pull out, I keep, you know, it's like balancing your checkbook. I go through all my bank accounts and make sure the balance hasn't skewed. When I was in my 20s, I had signed up for a gym membership and given them my debit card, and they just kept, I thought I had quit the membership, and they had kept deducting or charging me. And it wasn't until it was like a year later, like I realized how much money they'd been still charging me. And so that was a real lesson in like, you got to be checking that bank account regularly and make sure that there's no unknown charges or anything like that. So I made that, that's what I do on Monday is I go through all the bank accounts. I look at how much I owe on my credit cards and when are those payments due. And sometimes it's, you know, like back then it was like, I can only pay a minimum, the minimum due. And then you're paying fees. And it just snowballed into this kind of lack. And if you think of the laws of attraction, like I was just attracting more lack by focusing on all that lack. Um, and so I've done a lot of work. Like I mentioned, Jen Sincero, she's got a great book, You Are a Badass at Making Money. Um, there's another book, Money Love was another one that really helped me kind of change my perspective and have more of that kind of abundance perspective. So, have you
Who
ever heard that? Yeah.
who wrote Money Love? I just wrote it down because I anytime I get a good recommendation, I try to jump on it as quickly as possible.
Jerry Gillies, and he wrote it like 1978, but it's amazing how much is still relevant. And he's got some really good money mantras in there too, and exercises and ways to kind of shift your perspective on money.
Okay, I'll check that one out. Yeah, I'm fascinated by the topic. I think I grew up in a two family household and they did stay together, but I had terrible money experiences as far as they were concerned because they were young and they had kids very young. We lived with my grandmother in a two-bedroom apartment and there were six of us and it was just not a very abundant mindset. We were in the
Yeah.
projects. We just never had that kind of mentality. So there was just a lot of theme. And it's interesting that you brought up like the themes that kind of encompasses all areas of your life. And safety was the big one, right? So
Hmm.
safety with your money, safety in your environment, safety around so many different things. And if you're very, very safe and you're worried about all these different things, money was just one of those things that definitely were themes that were driving the ability for me to break free of that. I mean, I think it's definitely something that like kind of it even drives the idea of fear and like not putting yourself out there. It's like you're not safe, and I
Yeah.
can see it in so many different areas of my life, and money was no different. So that's something that I'm still ironing out to a big degree as well. So
And you probably heard those things that are like money doesn't grow on trees
oh
and
god, yeah,
you have to work hard. And
absolutely.
yeah, like when you've heard those things as a child, that really programs you. And so we have to do that work to kind of reprogram it.
Yeah, definitely a vicious cycle. Like, even the ones where it's like, only like criminals have money or greedy people and
Right.
that kind of stuff was very prevalent in the house at the time. And it's funny when I still go over there like, for like Sunday dinners and just different occasions and stuff. And the mentality has not changed at
Yeah.
all. So it's like it
Yeah.
is hard. It's like you think you're stepping a little bit out of that box and then all of a sudden it's right back at you. He's like,
So
why?
it's good that you're a coach as well too, because I bet you have to do kind of that like I call it when I go back to visit my dad, fortifying my boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
I really got to remind myself where are my boundaries and where like be aware. Like my meditation really helps with that too. Like being in the moment and going, oh, that could trigger me.
Oh
But
yeah. And don't talk about certain things. Just leave it alone.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a fascinating.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm reading not reading. I do Audible a lot. It's I forgot what it's called, but it's something by Marianne Williamson. So it's like
Yes.
something in. Let me I shouldn't leave the audience just stranded like that. Let me just get the name real quick because I love it. I think she designed it on the strength of A Course in Miracles. Um,
Uh-huh.
it was called The Law of Divine Compensation.
Ooh, okay.
Very good. Quick read. I mean, I
All
say
right.
quick read, quick audio book.
Listen. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I
very
have
cool.
a poem from her, right? It's back there. I reminds myself of like, who are you to be small? It's that whole thing. It's from that, I think around the same book. But yeah, just like we are all here to let our light shine. And the more
Hmm.
we let our own light shine, the more we encourage others to let their light shine.
No, yeah, yeah, love
She's
the
a great
top.
author.
She is, she is.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I found fascinating about you when I started to get to know you was the fact that you and you mentioned it. You definitely niche down and kind of like very popular around your sleep protocols and such. Like off the surface, especially in America, we it's very much a topic that isn't. I wouldn't think that anyone would jump and say, "Okay, I'm going to be a millionaire." Being a sleep coach, right? Where like maybe in the weight loss world, there's like
Right.
this allure that made there's so many people who need it, and we just don't value it as much. Can you talk about why you settled on that and why you're doing so well with it? And I kind of bring that up because I think a lot of people are scared to be so specific, to be so um niche down, and especially in topics that might be like not as popular. And I think you
Hmm.
were a great candidate to kind of discuss it. That yeah, you can totally make a living off this, no matter what the kind of what your niche is.
Yeah. And I was definitely one of those people that was like, well, what do you mean? Why would I want to, get so targeted? Don't I
Mhm.
want to, help everybody? Why would I want to limit myself? So that was a really tough concept for me to grasp at first. Um, And so, yeah, at first I was like, well, I'm going to help real estate women. And I thought that the best way to do it was to speak from something that I had experience with.
Hmm.
So, I wasn't going to target, well, I'd love to help kids. I don't have kids. So I was like, well, I'll target people in my age group, people in my same sex, because I think I can relate to them. And so originally it was real estate professionals who feel overwhelmed, helping them with time management.
Hmm.
And they never had time to meet with me. So then I went into working with, because I worked in production for so long and I understand the constraints. You don't have a lot of control over things, and kind of keeping it still health and wellness. Um, and I also found that they didn't have it, it wasn't a focus. It wasn't becoming an issue for them until they were in a health situation, in a health emergency, dealing with diabetes or chronic health. And so when I was working with my clients, I was always asking, how is your sleep? It seemed to always be a question that I asked, and found that if they were trying to lose weight, or if they were dealing with stress, or um, a lot of uh, unhappiness in their life, when I asked about sleep, it was like, oh, my sleep's horrible. So that's kind of how I got into sleep, was the clients kind of led me there. That's what we ended up talking about. And I could see it was a need. And then as I started doing the research and finding out how sleep is really the foundation for all things in our life. Like I said, if you're having trouble losing weight, you're probably not sleeping well, because your body can't do what it needs to do. And then you're getting the ghrelin, your hormones are all out of whack, and you're hungrier and you want to eat more carbs. Um, and if you're stressed and you're not sleeping well, then you're not getting the rest, and then you're stressed about not sleeping, and that becomes a vicious cycle. So back to your question of, I always use the analogy, this was told to me, is think of a target practice. And if you're just shooting all over the ring, you're not hitting the target. So by having a niche, now you create a target for yourself. And it's really for marketing. Like, as a health coach, I'll work with anyone, but it's more, the niche is more for my marketing. So I know who to market. So I'm not in, you know, all these different kinds of magazines trying to get all different kind of people. I think having a niche is, the analogy that just came to my mind was kind of like fishing. Like, you want that net to catch the fish that you want. You don't want to catch all the fish in the sea.
Hmm.
Um, and so the niche really allows you to pinpoint your marketing on one specific thing. And then if people, find you and go, oh, well, I am not a man in my 40s. I'm a man in my 20s, but I'm having sleep issues. Will you still work with me? Yes, I'll still work with you.
Hmm.
But I think having that, you want to be a jack of all trades and then you help no one, is the saying, is something like that. Jack of all trades, and like, I forget, something to none.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I
and so,
know
yeah, it's really a marketing, you know, yeah, you want to help everyone, but if you go out there and say, I help everyone, then someone who's like, well, how can you help me? So I don't know if that really answered the question about niche work, but I was very skeptical when I first became a coach. I kind of went through trial and error to figure out who my audience was. But I do believe, in terms of marketing, and also really setting yourself apart from other health coaches that are out there, having that niche is important.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I find that again, like starting out, you want to help everybody, like you mentioned, and it is kind of a thing. And I also think that I heard this one from another guest, and found it fascinating. This is actually more of an online thing at the end of the day, because online people are searching specifically for
Mm.
sleep coach or sleep problems, and then
Yeah,
you magically appear. Where if you are really operating on a local market or a local level, it's you could have a little bit more broad of a
hmm,
niche, but especially online, that's where everything is at this point. That's where it looks like that's where we really need to focus and at least lock it in there. You get away with a little more locally, it seems.
agree. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
how right now, like, how do you get clients? What is your mechanism to getting clients currently?
I think that every challenge of a health coach is or, coaches, yeah, how do you find the people? I've found LinkedIn to work for me because those are the people I'm targeting. I'm targeting upper level management, directors, people who are working long hours at their job. Um, and so a lot of those people those professionals are on LinkedIn. And so I work with I don't know what he would call himself, but he helps me create a message, and then he uses like Sales Navigator, and we create a profile, an ideal profile for a client, and then we go out and send personalized emails to everybody and just say, hey, I see that you do X, Y, and Z for a living. Are you challenged with good sleep? Or if you find yourself challenged with good sleep, I'd love to make you a video. And so then he helps me kind of pull those people in, and then the people that say yes, I'm interested, or yeah, I'd like to learn more, I send just a 3-minute video with some tips, some sleep tips, and I try to go in and look at their profile and make it personalized to them. I use their name so they know this isn't just like I've made a video and I'm mass throwing it out to people,
Mm-hmm.
because LinkedIn also kind of tracks that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so then I make a personalized video. Like I said, 3 minutes I think is like max for people that want to, it's attention span and length of time they have. And then I offer a 15-minute call. And I think a lot of coaches do this differently, but what I found works for me is I do a 10 to 15-minute call just to see. I call it kind of like a barometer or temperature. Do I want to work with this person? Do our
Mm-hmm.
personalities, because coaching is all about relationships, and you gotta get along. You gotta like the person. They want to make sure that they like you, so they're accountable for doing the work, and you want to make sure you want to put the time and effort into helping this person. My biggest thing is like, I want to know that you want to make the change, because if
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to change, or if you see yourself as a victim, we're probably not going to be the best fit. um, and in that phone call, just and determine, is their issue something that I think I can help them with.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it's sleep apnea and they need to go to a sleep specialist or get a referral from their doctor to go to a sleep study. So quickly I can determine whether I want to work with them and if I can help them, if it's something that I think I can help them get better at. And then we do a deeper dive call. So at that call, I just say, hey, this is really just for us to get to know each other. I want to learn more about you and see if you work with coaching, if that works for you. And then then it's usually a 45, 50-minute call. And that's where we'll get into like, what is your problem? What's your ideal life? What have you tried to do? What works for you? What are some of your strengths? And all the while, like, I'm trying to ask good coaching questions. So then near the end, I can say, do you think this is a form that would work for you? Are you interested in coaching? And then explain my coaching platform and program, and hopefully get them to, sign up. Or if we decide, because it's also sometimes coaching doesn't work for everybody. Like I said, if they're not ready to do the work or show up for themselves, then it's not, there's nothing I can do. So that's the process that I've found that works. But I know a lot of people also use like, and that's kind of like a funnel, a lead funnel
Right, right.
marketing process. I've also done like challenges, like 5-day sleep challenges, and I do posters around town, and I'll put that out on social media. And I'm a firm believer of giving more, like just offering information. And if somebody wants to come along and work with you, they feel that there's value there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely not someone who's like, well, sign up for this and you'll get this, you know, pay me and then you'll get information. So in the 5-day sleep challenge, I'm giving out tips every day. There's a little video that people get. Again, it's a funnel. It's a lead funnel. So I was not a marketing person, so it's been challenging for me. Again, if it's not something in your wheelhouse, definitely don't be afraid to outsource it.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. I'm very fascinated by that video stuff because I'm not a video person. This is
Yeah.
actually one of the first batch of videos that I'm doing a podcast with. I mean, even the other one, this podcast Burns Fat, we didn't have a video on. So,
Right.
um, I came across something real cool. It was kind of like what you're saying. it was like a 3-minute video, kind of a pitch to me. They used a specific software. I forget it now. Do you use a specific software that does it? It's like, oh man, I'd have to look back, but it was like the coolest presentation. It was personalized. It was like the guy had like a clipboard and it was like my name on it. And it was like really, really
Ooh,
cool. If I find it again, I'll share it with you. I was just wondering
yeah.
how did you create your videos?
I use Loom. It's a
Cool.
website. LOOM. We
Hmm.
used it a lot at Noom, funny enough. And it
Yeah.
is one of those ones you can record just the camera, what the camera's recording, or can record your desktop. You can record both. Like you may have seen them. It's usually like the person's in a little circle in the lower corner if they're sharing their desktop and how to do something. But yeah, I'm a big fan of their platform. You can have like, they have premiums and regular service. And I can't remember if I don't think I pay for it for the basic level, but
Mhm.
it's pretty easy to use. And then you can just share your link and then it'll show you like, have they viewed it? Have they hearted it? Have they commented on it? So
Okay.
it's not just a video that I make on my computer and then send out to them. Like the Loom site is actually kind of tracking for me as well.
That's cool. Yeah, so you got some data associated.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm fascinated by that stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna check them out. That's one of the things I find kind of, especially when you're trying to pitch your, either way, pitching to be on like a podcast or someone doing it to try to come on yours. I found that it was a nice take, someone to put in at least that effort instead of like you
Yeah.
can see those copy and paste kind of emails that everybody sees. It's just like there's nothing behind it. So yeah, no, this has been really fascinating. I'm so glad that you were able to come on today and share some of this wisdom. And yeah, I just want to give the audience an opportunity to see what you're doing, how your social media handles, your website, anything that you can give us that will keep up with all the good stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, you can find me on the web at happinessanchor.com. That's my company name. My Instagram is happiness.anchor. My Facebook, it's Happy Anchors because Happiness Anchor was taken. But you can also find me by Googling my name, Jalene, Jalene, and my last name is Szuba. My email is happy@happinessanchors.com, and my phone number is 773-294-1147. And I'm happy to talk to any coaches that are up and coming. I'm definitely a pay it forward kind of person. I've learned from coaches ahead of me.
Awesome. I appreciate all that information, and I hope that the audience takes advantage of all that potential. Because, like I said, and I see that you're doing well, and it's a really fascinating story. And I think you're very much of an inspiration to all the health coaches out there. So, thank you so much, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Likewise. Have a great night.
You too.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.